So, my first day on the White House beat was Joe Biden's first day. I've seen many of these oval sprays. Some of them can be kind of boring. Yesterday, top of the list, most interesting, possibly most consequential.
Yeah.
And this president, Donald Trump, who's been asking federal workers for 5 things that they did last week, all he was asking Zelenskyy was to say thank you. Just say thank you. And he wouldn't do it.
Truly amazing. And it's funny in this environment. So I keep my texts at 0. That's like the one thing I always clear out are all my texts. But I was in the air. I was flying at the same time. When I landed, I opened up, you turn your phone on, and I had like 70 texts. Everybody going, oh my gosh, did you see this? Oh my gosh, are you watching this? And then at that point, I'm like, oh no, something bad has happened.
And you just have a lot of friends who are in the rare earth minerals business.
Right, exactly. All of my rare earth dealers are...
Well, here is that moment that the entire, listen, this is reverberating across the world and sending messages to other leaders as well. Here is this exchange that has just everyone riveted.
We signed ceasefire. All of them told me that he will never go. We signed him with gas contract. Yes, but after that, he broken this ceasefire. He killed our people, and he didn't exchange prisoners. We signed the exchange of prisoners, but he didn't do it. What kind of diplomacy, JD, you are speaking about? What do you mean?
I'm talking about the kind of diplomacy that's going to end the destruction of your country.
Yes, but if you
Mr. President, with respect, I think it's disrespectful for you to come into the Oval Office and try to litigate this in front of the American media. I've actually watched and seen the stories, and I know what happens is you bring them on a propaganda tour, Mr. President. Do you disagree that you've had problems bringing people into your military? And do you think that it's respectful to come to the Oval Office of the United States of America and attack the administration that is trying to prevent the destruction of your country?
A lot of questions.
You don't have the cards right now. With us, you start having cards. Right now, you don't. You're playing cards. You're playing cards. You're gambling with the lives of millions of people. You're gambling with World War III. You're gambling with World War III. And what you're doing is very disrespectful to the country. Look, if you could get a ceasefire right now, I tell you, you take it so the bullets stop flying and your men stop getting killed.
Of course, we want to stop the war.
But you're saying you don't want a ceasefire.
But I said to you,
I want a ceasefire.
With guarantees.
Because you'll get a ceasefire faster than an agreement.
Ask our people about ceasefire, what they think.
That wasn't with me. That wasn't with me. That was with a guy named Biden, who was not a smart person. That was with Obama.
It was your president.
Excuse me. That was with Obama, who gave you sheets, and I gave you javelins.
Yes.
I gave you the javelins to take out all those tanks. Obama gave you sheets. In fact, the statement is Obama gave sheets and Trump gave javelins. You got to be more thankful, because let me tell you, you don't have the cards. With us, you have the cards. But without us, you don't have any cards.
And we don't know how Zelenskyy misread the situation so much, but we know what he missed, right? It's not Trump's money. It's not Biden's money. It's American taxpayer money. It's people that just elected Trump that he is still in touch with, he still feels a connection to, who are complaining that they can't afford eggs right now and that everything is so expensive. And then we're pouring $300 billion a year into Ukraine. And, Donald Trump did something that at my house we sometimes have to do with a 2-year-old. They say if your toddler is having a tantrum, sometimes the only thing that you can do is just take them to another, remove them, and let them cry it out.
Well,
and that's what
he's on timeout. There's no question. He's on timeout. Listen, I think that the attitude that he had coming into this is fascinating. First of all, let's just talk about that we're even seeing this, that Donald Trump has allowed the curtain to be pulled so that the world can see what an exchange like this looks like, and also see who Zelenskyy is, because he's been sort of propped up as this, George Washington figure, and yet you see the way he acted in here. He literally believes everything the elites and the neocons told him about himself. He didn't seem to realize that USAID actually paid the celebrities who came in to see him. He's believing his own sort of Euro press, and he comes into this meeting with that attitude. And you know, listen, I saw a lot of alpha male energy coming from Donald Trump, from J.D. Vance, saying, listen, I don't know what the other guy did before me, but this is a new sheriff. We're going to end this war because a lot of people have died. J.D. Vance talked about, you know, how they're forcing conscripts up. I've read stories that they even had took men with Down syndrome and recruited them and forced them into Vance to recruit them to go into this meat grinder of a war. This has been a brutal war, and Donald Trump said to him, you are gambling with World War III, and we're not going to pay for this.
And of course, after that explosive meeting, Zelenskyy canceled all of his interviews with American media after that, except for our own Bret Baier. But then he went on with Bret Baier last night on Special Report and did not take the opportunity to apologize.
Do you think your relationship with Donald Trump, President Trump, after today, can be salvaged?
Can be. Yes, of course, because it's relations more than two presidents. It's the historical relations, strong relations between our people. And that's why I always began with to thank your people, from our people. And this is the most important. And of course, thankful to President and of course to Congress, but first of all to your people. Your people helped to save our people.
Based on everything that we know about what happened yesterday, Zelenskyy thinks he's going to get a better deal from, that he can get a better deal from Donald Trump by holding out. But based on everything that we know about Donald Trump, that's not going to happen. And these Zelenskyy political geniuses should have told him beforehand that it's possible J.D. Vance or somebody in the room might bring up that he did campaign alongside these Democrats in the 2024 cycle, because there is one person in the world with an encyclopedia in their mind of everybody who ever campaigned with a Democrat or another Republican, and that is Donald Trump. And we've got this video. There they are in Scranton, Pennsylvania. Zelenskyy went to Battleground, PA, with Josh Shapiro, the #1 Harris surrogate for a while once Biden was sidelined, and Bob Casey, who was running, is right there behind him. He lost. And they were watching these missiles that the U.S. was paying for and sending over to Ukraine. Look, he's signing them. And he was acting like he didn't know what Vance is talking about. Oh, you went and campaigned with the opposition. That's what he's talking about.
Not only did that happen, but I believe Donald Trump tried to report this as foreign interference in this election. And by the way, repulsive, signing these bombs that are going to kill.
And yes, in the same outfit that you wear to the Oval Office, by the way, at the bomb factory.
He has like one costume.
And of course, foreign interference also being the premise of the entire first sham impeachment against Donald Trump in the first place. So it's kind of worth noting that. But it also goes back to the point with Zelenskyy. You have no cards, bro. The only cards you have are the cards that President Trump is providing you, or the American people are providing you. That's the only reason you're here in the first place. And for him to get all cheeky and talk about, oh, no, we're not playing cards here, like refusing to accept. It's like dealing with like a drunk, insolent teenager, trying to have a logical debate with him. And he's just being like, nyeh, 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 nyeh. And you can't be surprised that it ends up pissing off Donald Trump.
Yeah, and J.D. Vance. And J.D. Vance.
Everybody else.
I think the role of Vance in this was so fascinating. The way he and Trump are tag teaming on this. And that they're both on the same America First page.
It's bad cop and badder cop.
It's amazing. So no surprise, Democrats took that America First exchange that you just saw, and they're on the side of Zelenskyy. Watch.
President Trump wants to look tough. It's important for the American people to understand, because of what happened today, we are all less safe. They're going to be happy about this. Putin and his cronies are probably popping champagne bottles right now.
What we just witnessed between Donald Trump, J.D. Vance, and President Zelenskyy inside the White House was an ambush. It was a planned ambush designed to embarrass President Zelenskyy in order to benefit Vladimir Putin. That was an embarrassment. That was an abomination.
The President of the United States is a coward who is Vladimir Putin's puppet. It's just embarrassing that the only hero in the Oval Office, the only decent human being for that matter, is the Ukrainian.
It's a very sad day and an embarrassment for the United States on the world stage. But let's step back and analyze what's happened here. I think there's no question that this was a setup. You heard Donald Trump say at the end of that clip you played, this is great television. This was a setup.
You know what? You know what was a setup? Susan Rice. Susan Rice set up this whole war. Susan Rice encouraged Zelenskyy to push for entering into NATO and sort of signal we might do that. And that, of course, ended up ticking off Putin and I think in many ways starting this invasion. And that's why Donald Trump has said, no, you're not going to be part of NATO in this deal. We're going to leave that as a neutral area. And also you're going to pay us back. The Europeans, you guys, are also sending messages similar to the Democrats saying, we stand with you, Zelenskyy. And I think it's interesting because what I see is that the American people are not just seeing the ingratitude and sort of entitlement of Zelenskyy, but that actually is emblematic of the Europeans in general. They don't seem to care that we have our own problems here, that we have our own debt, that we have our own people to take care of.
We have our own border.
We have our own border that we're just now finally, thank God, because of Donald Trump securing. And for this guy to walk in here with that kind of attitude, I think is also a bad look for Europe in general, but also, I think, reflective of who they are.
And to all these Democratic lawmaker points that this was a big setup and it's so embarrassing, White House officials insist to us it was not a setup. And somebody went on the Daily Mail, a White House official, to say Zelenskyy should not have gone after JD. But the bigger point about these Democrats, they have amnesia because, yes, this extraordinary moment played out on live TV. But this extraordinary moment also happened behind closed doors 2.5 years ago. NBC News, Halloween 2022, Joe Biden, had barely finished telling Zelenskyy he just green-lighted another $1 billion in U.S. military assistance for Ukraine when Zelenskyy started listing all the additional help he needed and wasn't getting. Biden lost his temper. People familiar with the call said the American people were being quite generous, and his administration and the U.S. military were working hard to help Ukraine, he said, raising his voice, and Zelenskyy could show a little more gratitude. If you swapped in the names Trump and Vance, that is pretty much exactly describing what we saw yesterday. They just, in politics, there's this rule, the top people, they never really say sorry for anything. But you can say thank you.
Yeah, but what's interesting is that was a private call. It's hard. We heard that readout of it, but it's a whole other thing, isn't it, Charlie? Just seeing it, seeing his face, seeing his smirk, seeing him roll his eyes, seeing him refer to JD Vance, the vice president, as JD, while JD refers to him as Mr. President, showing up in the Oval Office, wearing his military costume.
And sitting there like this. Wait, you sit there like this if you're in trouble for something, or if you're really worried about
the body language was something else, and the eye rolling and the huffing. It was the body language in and of itself was pretty amazing.
Yeah. Well, he said, as Donald Trump said, you're gambling with World War III. Donald Trump doesn't want to fund it. I think most of the American people are with him.